Salaries and benefits. $1.4 million was the increase in salaries and $300,000 in benefits. If you remember, we had a one-time payment, we had the governor's stipend, we increased some pay and hours for positions, reading interventionists, nurses. There was just a lot of things that affected payroll this year, but the amount that we increased is within expectation.
So Jill, ESSER money would be factored into that. Any
Yep.
position that we've hired, we know at the June 30th, 24, number of them will fall off. So that's also included in that increased number.
Yeah, a lot of one-time things, partially the SSA stuff and then one-time items.
Right.
And that would be a reflection too of part of the reason why we saw that negative 117,000 overall too. Slide 8 shows the pie chart for how our revenue sources come into the general fund, and it's very comparable to the prior year. It's not unusual for schools that the majority of our revenue sources are from property taxes and state sources. Slide 9 shows the last 3 years of how those break out, and really the only graph that shows a big difference is state sources. You can see for FY22 there was quite a bit of increase, and again that's that 2.4% SSA increase we had with the 1.4% enrollment change.
So Jill, is the continuation of the federal funds being a little bit tick higher, is that still related to COVID or?
It is. I was surprised. We spent almost the same exact amount this year as we did in the prior year. And then we'll have one more year after this year we're in, and then it can flow into September of the following year too. Yep. Oh, look at that. Next slide, federal funds. In fiscal year 21, we spent 3.3 million, and then in 22, we spent 3.8 million. I guess the other piece now that I'm looking at this was food nutrition was up about 500,000. So last year was the year where all the kids got to eat free, and then the reimbursable rate was a little bit higher. So the nutrition fund really had a healthy year in fiscal year 22. Our ESSER funds last year we spent 480, and this year we spent 727. And I would say as far as the ESSER funds go, Joe and I, we worked through that and they're all budgeted to be spent. So we have a plan to spend what we'll be receiving.
What is GEAR?
What?
What that acronym GEER?
Oh, what does it stand for?
Or what?
It's
I
mental
went-
health.
Mental health, okay.
Right, what that is.
All right.
ESSER, it's a state ESSER money they
Okay.
gave us.
I don't care what it stands for, I just
No,
wanted to
it's
know
mental health.
Yeah.
what that was.
It's mental
Yeah.
health.
That I didn't know.
Okay, all right.
Slide 11 is my pie chart for the expenditures in the general fund. Looking at the salaries and benefits, we actually increased quite a bit this year. I have to find my note. Like up to 87%. So all of our expenditures within the general fund, you know, our salaries and benefits are the biggest piece, right? It's our people. Last year we were at 83%. This year we're at 87%. It won't stay there. Again, it goes to all those one-time things I just mentioned. And then the line graph that compares the last 3 years. Again, you can just see the salaries and benefits, how they increased from the prior year and how they're the greatest expenditure within the general fund. On slide 13, this is our UAB. This is the one, you know, that I feel like is a little bit more important other than the fund balance change. Our unspent authorized budget at the end of fiscal year 22 is at $7.3 million with a 16.3% unspent percentage of the maximum authorized budget. Our general fund is healthy is what that's telling us. We're doing a good job spending the funds that we get, but maintaining a healthy balance. Our solvency ratio dipped down a little bit in relationship to all of our additional expenditures to 20.82%, but still healthy and within line where it should be. It shouldn't really exceed 25%. You know, we want to make sure we're spending our funds, but overall the general fund's looking good. I think that was my
Some
last
people
slide
would
for
say
the
that's
general
too
fund.
high.
Some people could, but
No, but I mean in a
Once we
good
sleep
way.
at
I mean,
night.
it's very healthy is what
Yeah.
I'm
Is the
saying.
state, is it 15 to 20% is what they
15.
recommend?
not more than 25.
Not more than
Right.
25.
Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna move on to the other funds unless.
Yeah.
Okay. So, highlights for the other funds, really all of our ending fund balances are in line with where I would expect them to be. The management fund at the beginning of the year was 3.1 million and we ended at 3.1 million. We budgeted, this year for exactly what we needed. It should be enough to maintain costs for increased, costs and insurance, and then maybe help balance our budget in future years as well. The Pearl, we gained one more year of revenues for any costs that we might incur with the Y, and obviously haven't needed to expense anything there yet. Our activity fund went to 460,000 to 505. PEPAL decreased just a little bit from 2.7 to 2.4. Our SAFE fund decreased quite a bit from 4.9 million to 6 million, and that was as expected because that's where we're paying for all the costs to build the Y. Our debt service fund, we always have leave at 175,000. That's statutory based on the debt that we have. And here our nutrition went from 1.4 to 2.2, and again that's in relationship to the kids eating for free. Child care fund remained relatively flat at 132,000 to 142,000. Student construction fund increased just over 22,000 from the prior year from the sale of the last home that we had, and then some interest income. And then our self-insurance fund, it was kind of a stressful year. It goes up and down all the time. We had a lot of claims last year, but on that particular day, June 30th, we went from 4.3 million to 5.6.
What kind of fluctuation do you see in that?
Oh, it can be, we can be in the red, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
4.6 or 5.6?
4.5, 4.6,
Okay.
4.6, yeah. Yeah, hundreds of thousands of dollars in given months, yeah.
Oh,
You
is that
just
right?
Oh, yeah, because you could have one claim that is large at a time, yeah.
Okay.
Although with stop loss, I think our stop loss is at 120, but if you'd have 3 big claims in a month, yeah.
It would swing it pretty hard.
Yeah.
I would also mention Pebble we knew about would go down because we were doing the big Johnson control project. And so that's up and above what we typically would spend, and so we knew we were going to be spending into the fund balance of Pebble too.
Yep, some one-time money things. I just have a couple slides with this special education supplement. We approved the deficit a couple board meetings, but just to highlight kind of how that transpires. Our revenue from the prior year was 4.9, in the current year it was 5.3, so our revenues did go up a little bit. Our weightings were up some, which generated about another 250,000, and then we have more kids coming in too that are costing us money that are tuitioned in. So we received another $170,000 in relationship to the kids that we're serving that are tuitioned into the district. With the increased needs, our expenses have gone up as well, from 5.3 to 5.8 million dollars, with wages and benefits being about $250,000 of that. So we'll hire if we need to add another aide or another teacher, maybe add a position. Those items netted together had us come to a special ed deficit of about $404,000 in the current year. But on slide 20, you can see we always participate in the IDEA Part B grant and Medicaid to help offset that. And received $562,000 in additional revenue to offset all of those costs. So the staff and the nurses do a good job of making sure those claims get filed and we get reimbursed every year. Our special ed deficit over the last 3 years on slide 21 has averaged to be $378,000. At the close of fiscal year 22, it was $405,000. We do have a lot of expensive children right now. I could see that raising this year that we're currently in. We've had a lot of costs for individualized students just this year
The
already.
bottom line is, it is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah, and we can levy to pay for it. And then I guess I just threw on a slide of some highlights. Our auditors came out a little bit later this year. I think they've been really busy with all the COVID money that they're testing for everybody. But they're just about wrapped up and it went really well. I don't anticipate getting any bad comments or anything like that from them. We did get news that there's no IPERS increase for fiscal year '24. Year to date, our health insurance plan is running well, but you never know, we could have a bad month or two. And as you know, our enrollment was down 14.89 students, or 0.48%, but our net open enrollment was up 106.5 students. And then, I guess like I already mentioned, we do have $1.7 million left of ESSER money to be spent this year and into next year, but it is budgeted for, and we will spend it all.
Tell me the impact of being down 0.48%. Is that, what does that mean?
Oh,
Meaning we're,
Well, I would put it in just real simple terms. Let's say SSA comes in at 1%. That means we're only at we're 0.48 minus that, right? That we would have to make up the difference to get to the
Okay.
1% held harmless. Comes in at 2, means we're not getting 2. We're gonna get like 1.57.
okay.
So we're gonna, because we won't generate, we're down kids, so we will lose the kids to generate them off of. But remember, we also have 106.5 kids in revenue on open enrollment. And so we do counter it a little bit for our district with that.
Yeah, it will
Yes, yeah.
actually probably cover.
Yeah, it probably will. We'll see. We'll have to wait. That's the next big thing we need to know. What's SSA gonna look like for next
Right,
year?
right.
Open enrollment's changed dramatically. When they, at the last day, did away with deadlines, it also changed the way we have to count students now. And so now, the new rules came out a couple weeks ago, but we actually now, start counting kids when they show up. Before, you just counted them on count day. Well, now we count open enrollment, because if they come in after count day, we can then generate money for them later, or you can send more money out. And there are technically ways a kid might move into a district after count day, so that district never counted them, then they open enroll, so now they're paying for a kid they never even got to count. It's the way we have to do open enrollment, there are just so many, they didn't realize the impacts it was gonna have when they did away with the deadlines. And so we'll have to figure out how that is all gonna transpire when you go into next year's budget. But clearly, we have to hire staff for 106 kids. It's going to cause staffing,
Yeah.
and so we need to use the money. It's just not predictable like SSA. Once you get SSA, unless you're in the recession like it was in 2011 or 12, where you actually went backwards, it rarely ever happens. You can count on it year after year, so you can plan accordingly. Open enrollment's not necessarily like
You
that.
could lose
We're up
106.
106 this year. Next year we might be even, so it's the same revenue. And so,
Joe, what's the per pupil, we get with SSA, there's the per pupil, but it's additional with TLC, and there's other funds
there's other
with
funds.
that, right?
Yeah, so a student who lives here generates so much more than an open enrollment student. An open enrollment student only generates the per pupil amount and TSS?
TLC.
TLC, that's it. TSS money stays with the home district. So those 106 kids came from a district. They get revenue for those kids to pay teachers out of TSS that we don't get. So they generate, I'm gonna just say $8,000, somewhere $8,000 to $9,000, where a student will be, who lives in our district, generates over $10,000 of lots of different things, TSS,
Don't get saved for a student.
save does not go with them, yeah. Yeah, most money does not go with them. The big chunk does, but the rest of those other chunks do not go with them. Yeah.
So that, the sending district, gets an extra couple thousand, I mean, it's
Mhm.
20%, right? So we don't.
Yep,
we
it
don't
stays
get
with
that,
them.
Still hurts us with being
Yep.
down students.
Yep. Yeah, that's where, when you start talking districts that have 40 to, and I think there's one district now that has 60% of their kids are open enrolled in. Now you start talking about, well, that's a big chunk of money that their local taxpayers or somebody else is making up for. If you had to add on for open enrollment, well, you don't get any of their property tax either, right? So you gotta watch that, where is that tipping point where,
Well,
you could impact.
I mean, you
So-
still, an open enrollment in, you're probably going to take them, I mean, unless you're.
Yeah,
full.
well, the state law, if you have
Yeah.
room, you have to take
Yeah.
them.
So-
There's no
so
choice,
you-
yeah.
You might be over a tipping point, but.
But you're
still
taking,
gotta
yeah,
take
as
'em.
long as you have room. Now, there, yeah, again, where there's policies we have in place for elementary, we could
Yeah, yeah, of
expand
course.
them to limit it more. And at pure size, if you're small enough, I mean, you only fit so many kids, that's when
Right.
you cap.
But as a general rule.
Yeah, but as a general rule,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, good. Any other questions for Joe? Good
Nice
report.
job.
Thank you, Jill. Very good, staying on
I'm
top
trying to
of
do
it.
it.
Huh? Well, you did good, that's interesting. It's good news. Okay, motion?
I make that motion to approve the certified annual report.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Again, any questions? No? All right. Old business, but we don't really have any for this. So let's adjourn this meeting. Make a motion, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. So this part of the meeting is adjourned, but that doesn't mean the rest of the
They
meeting
were
is
so
adjourned.
excited. I can
Sorry.
see the
We
look
gotta
of
stay.
We have
excitement.
another good hour here.
It's a trick.
We get it.
You picked a
Now
bad
we
one.
can go into the organizational meeting, okay? That we
Okay.
do once a year. And Glenn Cappy is still on, so that's good.
Yeah, he's on.
So I'll turn it over to Mr. Steady.
All right, so I will start this meeting out. The first thing that we need to do is elect the president of the school board. Policy is it takes nominations. A few years ago, we had determined, just to make it simplified, put everybody's name on the ballot. In order to use the ballot the way we said, we would need just somebody to make the recommendation. There's no motion or second recommending that all board members either be eligible, and then we'll go and you vote for who you want. We've also give time for any board member says, hey, don't vote for me, I would not take the presidency. Or if the policy says, you would say, if you want somebody to be on the board. There is no second for that, so
Right.
I have to turn it over to you guys to make that decision. Either there can be a motion that everybody is considered for president, or you do it by individuals that you want to have considered for president.
Well, first, let's say whoever doesn't want to be president, we should comment on that. And I, for one, am gonna say I'm taking my name out this year. I've done it for 2 years and it was very rewarding, but I'm gonna do some other things that I need to do, so I'm gonna take my name out.
Well, you-
I'm gonna not run for president as well.
I served for 4 and I'm taking my name out.
Taking my name up.
I'm throwing my name in there. I want to be president.
I'll take that name off.
Glenn, are you wanting to be considered for president? No, Glenn is not to be considered. So
right.
there's only one person up for president, so if you want to mark your ballot or somebody make a motion to approve. the
Make a
unanimous
motion
ballot.
for Mark.
Mark Pratt?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Let's do a roll call.
Oh, roll call, yeah, we need a roll
Okay.
call.
Glenn, Mark for president. Aye.
Aye, Dittmer, aye.
Lindeman, I.
Maxwell, aye.
Would I?
Pratt, aye.
Bergfeld, aye.
All right, Mark, you're the president, so you've got to take over the meeting now.
So we need to.
So we'll do the same
You
thing
want
for
to
the
move?
vice president.
Still
then.
fill out
You can
the
pass it
ballot.
all you want.
Don't fill it out?
Do
Or
you
do-
go
oh,
someplace
do-
different?
Oh,
okay.
sorry, I passed them the wrong way. Sorry.
Congratulations, Mark.
Good job,
Yeah,
Mark.
good job.
Vice president. Vice president.
Already passed.
So Mark, if you want to ask if anybody does not want to be considered for vice president first. Oh, that's right, sorry. I always get ahead of myself.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully, impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties as a member of the Board of Directors of the North Scott Community School District as of now and hereafter required by law?
I will.
There you go.
Stay here.
You can stay down there.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
stay there.
You want the gavel or you okay?
I'm okay.
I'm keeping this.
Oh, You want me to personalize it for you too, John? All right. So, again, I want to thank Joni for her time serving on the board for the previous 2 years, and I think we're a pretty well-oiled machine. We'll just continue making North Scott great, so.
That's right.
You'll find
Thank
that
you,
I'm a
Mark.
man of few words, so that'll be good.
might be
Okay, now, we need to do, vice president. So I guess we'll go down the same route for who wants to throw their hand up for vice president.
I'll ask Glenn first. Glenn, did you want to be considered for vice president? No.
And Dittmer, no.
Lindeman, I would like to continue being vice president.
Maxwell, no.
I would be interested in being vice president.
Okay. I don't want 2 jobs, so.
Bergfeld, I'll pass.
Okay.
So on your ballot sheet, you have 2 people to vote for that. I need one for Glenn. Glenn, I need to know is, Mark or Tracy, or not, sorry, Mark, Frank or Tracy for vice president. Say that again?
You count them, Trina?
Okay.
If you want
Okay.
to.
Oh, sure.
We have them all?
I've got it.
I think Mark.
Oh, you have.
I was told I count them.
You want them?
Yeah, Mark
want 'em, Joe?
counts them.
Mark has them? Oh, you can do that.
Yeah, maybe Mark.
Are
does-
these all, these are those, right?
Yeah, that's vice president.
If you have
Those are
8.
the ones.
mm,
That's the vice president.
You have 8 too many.
Okay. Hold on, I need to recount again.
Didn't know if you would say that.
All right, Tracy is continues to be our vice president.
Congrats, Tracy.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties as member of the Board of Directors of the North Scott Community School District as of now, hereafter, required by law?
Tracy, anything else?
No,
All
thank you,
right.
everybody.
So now we're on to our board meeting dates. We had set those previously. Is there any changes anybody has to any of these?
Do we need a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Voting.
Oh, for-
Oh, no,
No.
we were voting. I was thinking
We
because
didn't
we,
do a roll. Oh, I should
Roll.
say that.
we didn't need a roll call
No.
because that's what
Okay.
the vote is for, sorry. I didn't, you do both for
Oh,
the
wow.
president. I didn't have to.
We talked about, I don't know, one meeting in August, didn't we?
But that'll be the next week. It's kind of backwards that we do this now, because we
July
actually
is the
approved the
last
meetings
one,
in
right?
July, so
Okay.
we'll do that. This only takes us to June 30th.
Okay.
So, but if for some reason, the board would say, hey, we want to go to one meeting a month, or we want to go to Thursday nights or Wednesday nights, this is the meeting you typically would do that at.
Yeah, Monday's not good.
Monday is 6:30, all right. Do we need to approve those again?
Yep.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, all right. Board committees, the list should be there, I think it's on the website too.
And I didn't make any changes, there was just, people said, hey, I'm good with what I want for the most part. All board members are always welcome at any committee meeting to stay informed, right? Because there is a lot of work that gets done outside. So even if you're not a committee member, and you want to come and listen into a committee and be at the committee, you're more than welcome to always do that. So right now, there was no changes. Changes of committees can happen other times, this is just the official time it gets done.
Only difference is, I think, county and city board. and
That's
just
president,
one.
vice president, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Frank, you're still gonna be the delegate
Yes.
person, okay. All right.
So you don't need a motion for that?
Yep,
Okay.
motion to approve.
He does.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, all right. On to the appointment of legal counsel. Which, Lana Waterman will continue as our general legal counsel. And then, Lynch Dallas is our counsel for negotiations, and I assume it's
Allers.
Allers, sorry, I'm gonna butcher these like Joe does.
Whoa.
Serve as a district's legal counsel.
Taylor.
Sorry,
Taylor.
Joe.
You can hear the bus
Involved
coming.
in financial
Yeah, that's all right.
issues, so I assume those so I guess we'll leave it for motion.
Yeah, I would only just say is that we're recommending staying with that. We don't use, we don't spend much on negotiations anymore. We use interest-based now with all 3 unions, and so unless we really need them for negotiations, we've really dropped that cost off over the last 6, 7 years. And then the Lane and Waterman we use from time to time when it's appropriate.
Motion to approve those folks.
Second.
Okay, and second, first and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Now on to board policies. There's some ones here that we have to review every single time we have this meeting.
We
So
do.
Joe, you wanna go over it?
Yeah, and so, they're just to put up a review so that you do them. Our board policy committee would review them at the time, they're also when their numbers are up, or if we decide to change. For example, the board, the way we elect the board president, vice president, probably something we should look at for the next year if we're gonna change it to be something different, or if we're okay with the way it is. These are just by state law, they have to be on this board agenda for you guys to look at.
Okay. Motion to.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Okay, any discussion on the policies?
Do we have on 606.9, it states our limits, do we have those limits defined? That's on the sizes.
We do for elementary, we do not for junior high and high school. That's something the policy committee over time will have to take a look at.
Okay.
Like I said, there's so many things changing. It's hard. Like right now, we have apps, 4 or 5. Bree's not here. I was gonna look for Bree. 4 or 5 apps for next school year. Well, technically it says you're supposed to process them in a reasonable time. But we don't know anything until April for like kindergarten roundup. Kindergarten roundup's gonna be in February this year. It's hard to prove. Right now, if I had to do anything, we'd have to deny 8th grade, deny special ed, and deny 4th grade. But yet we don't know necessarily, are we hiring more people or not? And so, or do we wanna look at policies to change policies? 7th grade, we did close because the 31, we averaged 24. And we're hitting 31, 32 kids in a class, that's too large. And so we'll have to look at that,
Okay.
on how we wanna deal with junior high and high school. They're just so different because the way they schedule, they're never equal anyway. You might have a section of 16 and a section of 30 anyway, just because of scheduling conflicts.
And do you think we could see a trend of every 7th grade year get 30 kids in from Oakland?
Well, we have, our largest is 24, so you look at kindergarten, 7th grade, and 11th, our freshmen, we have 21, 21, and 24. They represent a section of students in those 3 grades. So eventually, yes, I assume they're all going to either have that number or even a little bit potentially larger. That's what we just have to start seeing the trend with the new laws and where that goes. We'd love to know in March for those numbers, not in July and August. I mean, it's hard to prepare, especially in a teacher shortage, and that's not going away anytime soon.
Maybe there'll be some settling too after, we get a couple years down the road with the open enrollment rules. There'll be some more
Yeah.
settling, it won't be as drastic.
We should be able to see what is our true pattern and then plan for that pattern. We're only really year 2 into the pattern, and COVID really threw it off. A lot of people were making decisions based off of COVID decisions, and so this, to me, I think this is year 1. So next year we'll see, will that number in kindergarten stay the same? So then we can start planning accordingly. We just need some consistent years to be able to predict that.
Okay. All right, first and second, all those in favor?
Fine.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, on to the concession stand operators.
Motion to approve those, folks?
Do we need to do these individually?
No, you can do it as one.
So,
Second?
okay, any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the music, athletic, and drama boosters for running concession stands? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
Now, this doesn't include trap shooters, does it?
No, this is just our
just-
just the
concessions.
boost.
Concession stand.
Just
Okay.
concessions,
Yeah,
yeah.
it like,
Okay.
The outdoor and
FFA
indoor
wouldn't be doing
concessions.
it or anything.
Right,
They do their own at their
yeah,
own site, yes.
okay. Okay, sorry, thanks.
All right, then moving on to the official newspaper for the school district.
Motion to approve the North Scott Press as the official newspaper.
Second?
Any discussion?
I would like to say that we are very lucky in this community to have them, especially with the promotion of all of our activities and everything else. So we're very blessed
It's spoiled.
and spoiled.
Yeah, very,
yes.
yeah, I agree.
Good job.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the North Scott Press as the school newspaper?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right, on to the equity report. I think that is Shane? Is that-
Aaron
Oh, Aaron.
these are just state-generated reports. I know Shane came tonight. They're required by law, so we go into the state system, which I would have said when Joe was here. It's been a challenge getting things out of the state. One, they're understaffed, and they've had some changeover in their technology. And so many of their deadlines have been extended this year, and getting stuff out of them has been hard. So these 2 reports, these would be the 2 reports that we'll have a committee be looking at as the year goes on and more into depth, but they are required to be on this board agenda, to be presented or to be on here for you guys to view, for the equity and the high school courses.
Motion to approve equity report.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the equity report?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. All right, on to, now it's Shane's turn, on to the high school course enrollment data.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be here.
Yeah, well, he could be here to answer questions. It's the same thing. This again will be another one that we will be able to really dig deep into with the committee that we'll have going to say, well, what does it really tell us? Again, this is pulled off of when we do our beds.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
kind of
mostly?
Yeah, and it's always a year behind. We tried to pull some different data to include in this with concurrent classes, because in the past, we've had shortage from pulling from the state for that, so we've been trying to get that. So that's in there. And then we'll use this for our college and career readiness reports that we're gonna try to connect to the strategic plan too. So we'll try to keep data coming on that.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on the equity report, or not equity, the enrollment data? Okay, all those in favor of approving the enrollment data?
Aye.
Aye, all right, motion passes. On to a resolution now for the financial depository institutions. Julie,
I do. I just have one comment. It's an annual item that we look at. I am making one change to increase our maximum balance at the Iowa Schools Joint Investment Trust to $35 million. I really like the way they handled our bonds in the past, and depending on flow of money and when we receive funds, I feel that would be sufficient and needed.
There has been a question in the
I was-
past. We went
I
away
was-
from them a few years ago, went to another company that they actually bought out. They have rectified any situation that we had prior, what made us go away from them, when they had an individual make a decision without getting permission from us, as you might recall.
I do recall.
I do too.
But that situation has been taken care of, and we were probably away from them for 2 years when they bought the company out that we went to, so, it's not an issue for us.
I remember
Motion to approve.
Second.
any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the financial institutions, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Now moving on to consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
that. Second.
All right, all in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Anybody negative for that? All right, nothing. All right, moving on, motion, consent agenda is approved. We already did recognitions. Now on to the bills. Again, Jill, active tonight.
This evening, they have $1,162,403 worth of bills presented for approval for payment. My highlighted items include a payment to Courtesy Ford for $43,991. That was for a 2023 Ford Cutaway maintenance van. I think maybe they waited about a year to get that.
Only a year?
Yeah.
I know.
A payment to Bruce Builders for $15,525 for pre-construction services for the softball field complex. And then Communication Innovators for $12,613 for camera additions at the junior high in Neil Armstrong. Thank you.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Any discussion on the bills? I guess I have one thing, Jill. So we're gonna continue to see like what I would call the engineering and architecture firms, those
Yeah,
trickle through
Yeah.
for the foreseeable future.
correct.
But wrapping up the Y stuff, right?
Yes, yeah, there are very minimal amounts left.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, motion to say, all those in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, committee reports, we don't have anything. And then on to new business. Joe, you want to that's the eye
Yep.
insurance renewal?
Yeah, eye insurance is VSP is our eye insurance. We're recommending renewing with them. Are recommending increasing the eye frames to $140 and also starting to cover glare. We had not done anything really changing that plan before I was here, so it's been a long time, 15 probably plus years. And with inflation costs and things, and it's a total cost increase of $15,000 total to our health insurance. And so that's a recommendation we're making, stick with the health, or the eye insurance we have, but increase those allowances for our staff.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the eye insurance renewal?
Good.
All those in favor?
Excuse me, Mark, this was brought out by the committee?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep, this went through the health
Good,
committee.
good.
And I guess this is in line with just like what industry is going with, like just the cost of everything going up.
Correct, yeah.
All right, all those in favor of approving the eye insurance?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, hear nothing, all right, motion passed. Right on to Med 1 for the prescriptions.
So this one was also talked about over several months with the Health Insurance Committee. This one, what we're looking at doing is taking specialty drugs off of our current medical plan, our current drug plan, and putting them into a new plan called RX Ally. And the reason we're doing this is in order for the school district to also be able to get the money that's set aside by the companies in order for people who are 400% or less of the poverty level, not to be able to afford those drugs. And so what that'll do for us is potentially save $267,000 a year of the 7 current people that we have that would be impacted. We would also, though, if anybody did not qualify, then we would have an exemption put back onto our plan. So nobody's gonna lose their access to the specialty drugs that need it, because they've already gone through step therapy and everything it takes to qualify. They won't lose that. Med 1 will work with them. It's just gonna give us the advantage as it's still available to get access, not only for our employees, but the district to do it. Specialty drugs represent 40% of our total spend on prescription drugs. And so if we can take advantage of the current plans that are out there, then we're gonna do that. So we're taking off from our current plan, specialty will not be covered. That qualifies them to be covered under RX Ally, and that's where they'll get them. It won't change how they get them. Med 1 will still work with them, and then we will recoup all of the money besides the employee will recoup what they normally would get. If they don't qualify for some reason, we would put an exemption on our plan. So our employees aren't gonna lose the benefit. We just wanna take advantage of the money that's out there to save, which is, can be a large amount. And we could have another Humira person, next week. And those all represent large spends during a year. And so that's what we're recommending do. I went and talked with all the employees that were in families that were impacted to make sure they didn't hear tomorrow, oh, you're not covering specialty drugs. No, we're gonna still cover specialty drugs. We're gonna do it in a way that we can maximize the savings both for our employees and for the school district.
Good.
And there will always be an exemption that if they wouldn't qualify, that they would be right back on the plan. So our employees aren't gonna lose anything, we're just taking advantage. And so that's what we're looking for the approval to do.
So with HIPAA as a concern with this, if there's another specialty drug that comes up by another member, will our provider know and put them in this RX Ally?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, they work with them, because they already require step
Right.
therapy and stuff for lots of
Right.
things, have you tried this, have you tried that, and then they make them, they already have to go through a lot of steps to get to specialty
Right,
anyway.
right.
The other thing we never cover, it's just kind of broad, we don't cover any off-script prescriptions. So right now, the diabetic drug that's also being written to be a diet pill or diet
Wait,
drug,
yeah.
we don't cover that, because
Right.
it's off-script, it's not even approved by FDA. So we're pretty restrictive already. We make people jump through a lot of hoops, I think, already to
Right.
ensure they're getting the right medicine. But if they need it, it would be covered either under
Right.
RX Ally or we'll go back to our
Right.
plan. So our intent is not to make people have to pay for specialty drugs out of their pockets. It would bankrupt the family. They're that expensive. And so even future people will still get coverage.
Okay, good.
And future drugs we might not know about.
Motion to approve Med 1.
Second.
All right, any other discussion for Med 1?
I was in the, just a comment, I was in the committee meeting, and I missed the last one, but before, I just want to say, I really appreciate, the members in there that are covered by the plan, always, are willing to try these new things, and even if they're the ones that are affected, I mean, they really take an active role, they know their members very well, and they're always, willing to try stuff instead of, being afraid of looking at it, so, same thing with this, just really appreciate it, being in that committee, the staff does an amazing job of knowing their own teammates and how they together can keep their costs low.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Molly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we look at doctor on demand, or even now with Med1 being able to shop prescriptions, our employees are willing to go, oh yeah, Walgreens is costing the district too much money. Even though it doesn't cost them more, in the end, it's all of our money because we're self-insured. They're willing to go to Hy-Vee, Walmart. North Scott Pharmacy is,
yeah.
for many of our drugs, is the cheapest place our employees can go, and they're willing to make those moves for us. They do what it takes to control our costs, so.
And this is another potential savings of what, 267 or something?
267 based off of the current people, but,
Yeah.
that number could even be
Sure.
higher someday, or it could be lower, if there's less people who need it.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Good.
All right, anything else? All right, all those in favor of approving Med 1?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion approved. All right, on to policy committee recommendations, the first reading, so there's no action on that.
So there's no action tonight. I'll just go through just to say what the policy is and what the change you'd be looking at. They were in there. Yeah, between now and next month, if you have any questions, take a look at it, but there are quite a few of them here. So 401.19 employee expression, that's adding the Supreme Court decision from this summer with the coach out on the West Coast. 402.9 added dependent adult abuse. We're required now not only child abuse, so I'm surprised the title hasn't changed because it's both now for us. 408.1 licensed professional. Basically what a lot of these are adding is that we must meet all Iowa laws and approved by the superintendent. So many of this is making sure for trainings and things we're meeting Iowa law without specifying which Iowa law, because there's a number of different ones in there. 601.2 is a school day. That'll be a new policy. We don't define a school day. There is a policy for that, so we'd be looking at adding that. 602.1 curriculum development, comply with all laws. 602 curriculum implementation, comply with all laws. 602.3 curriculum evaluation, comply with all laws. 605.3 technology and instruction material, it updates the wording. 605.4 media center, provide access to parents on our website. So that'll be added to it. 701.1 fiscal year, there was no change. The 700s now is our review of the 700s, so all 700s come to you. 702.R1 cash and buildings, no change. 702.1 gate receipts, proceeds for fundraisers. 703, I'm gonna just not say no change unless there's a change now. 703.1 budget. 704.2R1 post issue compliance regulations for tax exempt services. 705.4 receiving goods and services. 706.2 payroll deductions. 706.3 pay deductions. 707 financial audit committee. 709 data management. 711 is our food service starts. 0.4 food service, no change. 711.5 food service program, no change. 712.1 student school transportation, there's no change. 712.1 district vehicle idle, no change. 712.11 school bus passenger restraint, no change. 712.2 student conduct on school transportation, no change. 712.2R regulations going to school, riding school bus, no change. 71.23 student transportation for extracurricular, no change. 71.2.4 transportation equipment, no change. 712.5 school vehicle routes, no change. 712.6 summer school program transportation, no change. 71.27 school bus safety instruction, no change. 712.8 transportation and inclement weather, no change. 71.2.9 utilizing of district owned vehicles by school employees, no change. And then now childcare, 713.1 childcare program goals and purposes, no change. 713.1.1 childcare program administration, no change. 7132 childcare program And then, entrance, no change, 713.3 withdrawal, no change for childcare, 71.3 for childcare fees, no change, 713.5 childcare administration of medication, no change, 713.6 childcare programs, special needs students, no change, 713.7 childcare grievance procedure, no change. 802.4 capital assets, it adds the leases into that one. That was the only change. So again, those are all first readings, and next month, that was second reading.
Did you do 802?
And I would like to say.
Did I miss
whoever-
802? 802, that was capital assets.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
right.
that was, I'm sorry, capital
I
assets.
would like to say whoever serves on the policy committee, thank you. Thank you to all of you.
And the one thing, Joe, with
Yes.
the school day, just for clarification, that's just literally describing the school day.
Correct, yeah,
From like
yeah.
start times.
Puts in the
and
state
time.
laws of what
Right.
counts and what doesn't. It gets a little bit different because whether you're an hour school or a day school, there are slightly different rules. And so we're an hour school district.
Okay.
All right, on to superintendent's report.
All right, well, first is the enrollment summary that's in there. Then the 2022-23 calendar, we put in a rough draft. Next month, we'll set the public hearing for January, first meeting in January, we generally approve it. We did survey the staff, there were 255 completed surveys. We also talked about it at SIAC. It's basically the same calendar that we have now, for the most part, so. And then, winter break, the office hours, it's by appointment only when the school is not in session, just wanna remind people that. School board convention, I know there are probably some board members under board comments will probably wanna comment on there. I thought it was probably the best, IASB school convention I've been to. I thought their keynote, the first keynote speaker, not only was he hilarious, but it was a point. Their overall theme by the keynotes was about communication. How do we communicate with each other? How do we communicate with our communities and things like that? Many of the sessions were on that. And so I thought School Board Association did a great job. I did go to the one on the open enrollment changes. Those rules had passed that day from the school board, Iowa School Board, and so we still have a lot to learn about what does this all mean. They're just so many things that you know, when you pass something like that at the last minute that you don't understand what the domino impacts are. And that they just have to take time to go through them. And
Wasn't there a lawyer from the Department of Ed?
He was,
there?
Thomas Mays was there, and he did a good job. It's just also fresh and new, you know, it's hard to look at, to know it, but that was a good session. And then I went to an advocating, for public education session that had a couple different districts that are doing what they call super board meetings. So for us, it'd be like if we got together with Davenport, Bettendorf, and Pleasant Valley, and then invited our elected officials all together at one time to have one big meeting. I thought that was a great idea. There's a number of districts out west that are doing that. So that way we can get them all at one time to come together, and work through that. So I'm gonna throw that out at the MAC conference meeting, is that's something that we'd wanna consider either for Scott County or even the MAC, and then you'd throw in Clinton, DeWitt, and Muscatine potentially. And we could go to one large area and do it. Some of it they do a dinner, they feed them, and then I think it was, Longgrow, or, I can't remember the name of the school, I'm not gonna try to think of it.
That's a good idea.
But then, and it was their food service that actually fed them,
Oh,
that
nice.
did the food, but then they hold a meeting, they had like 21 school districts that all came to that meeting. So,
like that.
but I thought that was a good idea,
Really good idea.
another way, so.
We always have super board
A
meetings
lot of
here.
board people.
Yeah, no, this, supersized.
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 That's a good idea.
February 14th is Day on the Hill, so you want to mark your calendars, see if you're available. I am not available. I'm heading to the AASA board meeting and conference in Texas, and so I'm leaving that day, so I will not be able to go to that one. But I'm sure we'll have a couple other administrators who will be attending too.
February
And so
14th.
February 14th, so you can just at least rough it in on your calendar. More information will come later. And then that Wolf Carbon Solution meeting, December 6th, 5:30 at the River Center Convention Center. We got notices for that because our John Glenn Elementary is potentially within the 2 miles of that carbon pipeline that's being proposed. So I'll be attending that meeting. I know we hosted in the auditorium a meeting night just to let the landowners, well, what does this mean? So you just don't show up and then have to hear it for the first time and not even know what to ask. But that's when it's the last meeting before, I think, their application, that
Right.
they file their application, so they have to have that meeting. But anyway, just so if you wanna know if you wanna attend, that's when it's going to be. And then, board, our board social event, it's either gotta be the 11th or 18th. I can't remember if
I can't do the 18th.
You can't do the
Yep.
18th,
I don't
so.
care.
You can't do the 18th either?
11th,
So who had, somebody preferred the 18th, could you do the 11th? Was that you, Mark?
I think so, let me check my
So
calendar.
let's just put December 11th.
Yeah, let's do that, yeah.
Because we're probably not gonna find one perfect for all of us, so it's Sunday, December 11th.
At John and
At
John.
John's,
John and Jones.
John and Jones. Joan over there hiding.
She did,
5 o'clock,
You
like
can
5 to
tell us
8.
what to bring.
Yeah.
So-
Yep.
You have the,
And
music
potluck.
concert that day, so.
Oh, is that one? Is that, oh, there you go. Go to the music
I got
concert
11.
all day and,
So just what you know. Right on.
awesome. And that's all I have.
All right, board correspondence, I guess we'll just go through, and for those that went to the ISB convention, I guess, Molly, if you wanna start?
Yeah, just a couple, I guess maybe two or three things. I went with Frank to the delegate convention, so that's always interesting. Just passed the resolutions. We did add something to the preschool resolution based on what we've heard from our staff, just about added something to the resolution for additional support and resources, to be able to provide behavioral and educational services to 2 to 5-year-olds. So we're hearing that it's taking some extra resources from us for kids that, were maybe 0 to 2 years old during COVID, during the height of it, and there's more delays that they're seeing. So added that to the preschool thing. So other than that, it was just a good experience and good discussion. So the speaker that you mentioned, the first one, Dr. Adolph Brown, if you have a chance to go look him up, great talk. And he does have some YouTube videos out there of doing it in a large convention center. Calls people out when they walk out of it. It was pretty funny.
I'll have to look
Plays
at
the
that.
welcome back music when they come back into the big convention room. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But anyway, he spoke about the second backpack, right? That everybody carries first backpack, but everybody also carries a second backpack that you don't know really necessarily. Not only the importance of understanding or trying to learn about what's in other people's second backpack, but also your own. So it has to do with your experiences, your life growing up, whatever you bring, and it's really talks about getting to know and digging deep into your own second backpack, and also learning for every child. They also carry a second backpack, what that is, how that it can impact their learning, and how to unpack it for them. So that was good. The only other, I went to a couple of sessions, the open enrollment one. There was one about decision making that was pretty good, about priorities. Decision, not only personal, but also as a group. So, yeah, great session. The only thing I'm gonna give feedback on is, it seems like the number of sessions that we can go to is a lot less than we normally do. I mean, maybe 2, 3, 4 good sessions. There's a lot of vendor time, I think, that they should cut the sessions from an hour to 45 minutes or something like that, so you can attend more of those, kind of micro learnings. That seems to be getting longer and less as we go. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo the keynote speaker at the beginning of the day was like far and away probably the best one we've had the time that I've been there. There was, Molly and I went to one in the afternoon, was it Wednesday afternoon, right? For the, it was a band teacher, he does like organizational thinking, which was really good, a lot of points to bring back, not only for here for our board, but for just everyday life and working and everything. And it was kind of reminded Molly and I walked in, we're like, oh, we already do this for our day jobs, and it's like, well, we'll just see how it is. We listen in, and it was really good. So they're able to basically categorize and basically figure out what absolutely needs to be done and prioritize, and versus those things that are kind of nice to have, but also talking about, even though it's not real high priority, it's still needed kind of thing for morale and stuff like that. So that was really good. And also touch base with another school district that made me appreciate Joe and your staff with upkeep of our facilities. They were having to scramble to figure out if they're going to have to teach kids in churches in town, a very small school district. They didn't have enough money or enough public support to replace the boilers in their schools, so that was pretty insightful. And I also shared our strategic plan with them too, so she was very thankful for that, so. Again, I echo Molly too. I think I counted 3 different times that we could actually go and have like a little mini session. I like the networking and also the more availability to go to different things too.
I just echo Dr. Brown, he was hilarious, and he had a message, which was even better. I spent a lot of time just networking with other school districts, and went to a couple sessions where I made it, for me, makes me feel proud to be in North Scott, just because of what they were talking about. To me, it's old hat. I mean, it's something that we already do, and it's on board policy, and making certain that they're up to date. And I'm thinking, I know I talked to Joe about this, but you're required by law to do it. Well, this happened to be an AEA that was talking about their board policy, so I don't know if they have to follow the same, probably do. I think they weren't. But it was interesting to see what they were doing, and in fact, I talked to a colleague and just told him, well, this is what we do, and this is how we've done it. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. So I mean, it's things that we do, be thankful that we do them, because to me, we're a model school. So, and I did put my name in to be a district director for District 8 for the delegate, because no one stepped up, and then there was another person put their name in too. So I'll find out, I think, December 9th if I'll be appointed. That's what it is for 1 year, and then have to vote on it after that.
Thanks, Frank.
But I have to, kudos to Molly, when there were 22 amendments, I guess you'd call that, or bullet points for the delegate assembly to go through. Resolutions, and the second resolution was on preschool, had the most discussion on it, and Molly actually put forth the amendment to get more resources for our preschool kids. So we had to go through it and rewrite it again, because there were a couple words that people wanted to change. And, I said, Molly, all we got to do is do this. We go over and had it adjusted. We
That's great.
threw out another amendment, so I said, hey, that's a win. I mean, I
Well,
just
that's a
want to let you
big
know,
deal.
that's huge.
300-some school districts, to get an amendment passed to a resolution.
And I'll
it's
just say,
very tough.
the first thing was the amendment. I think it failed 60 to 40, something like that. We changed it, and it was like 95 to 4.
Nice
So,
job.
I mean,
That's
it was a
one,
good
too.
amendment, so,
Yeah.
Of course,
Good job.
Emily's there to help us.
Yeah, there you go.
Emily.
so it was good. It was good conference. I agree with you, Joe. It was,
That's
I like last year's, and I would just say, yeah, there's a lot of time for the vendors to go down and visit the vendors. I know as a delegate, as the ISABA, School Board Association, the vendors pay for a big chunk of that conference. So I'm sure that they said, hey, we need more time to talk to people. So, I mean, you gotta scratch their back a little bit too, but it was good.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for that.
I also enjoy the networking and networking with other school districts and networking amongst ourselves. I thought that was really good, and being able to just communicate with each other and kind of, you're in that mode. I think my most rewarding was hearing the Davenport Community School District present, and the path that they've gone through their financial struggles and their student struggles and the environment struggles, and how they've got through it. And the most telling was, I think 96% of all the school districts that have the state come down on them dissolve rather than make it through. And I thought that was pretty telling, and they've really done a lot of things to proceed in a positive way. And I think that as our neighbors, we should be caring for them, and we do, and we hope for good things from them, and we want to be good neighbors in the district and be part of it. And so I really got a lot out of their presentation, and I talked to the board members. I knew several of them anyway, and was really glad to hear that they're kind of getting things going down the right road, and the School Board Association helped them with that. But I thank all of you folks for being there and being part of it, and it was fun be with everybody, and you just kind of, it's a fun day. And of course, I've done it for more than 10 years now, so it's a day to look forward to on the calendar every year, so.
And we missed those, I know it's, I wasn't able to go last year, and I was kinda, you miss it when you don't go, and I know everybody has conflicts and stuff like that, so you guys were there with us in spirit, you, Joni,
know.
Tracy, and
Yeah, I
Glenn.
wanted to thank you guys for representing us.
Yeah.
Joni and I had some family issues come up, and we were both very disappointed, but it sounds like you guys
It was a good-
represented
Yeah,
well.
thanks for the
Yeah.
recap, it makes me wanna, would wanna.
And Mr. Studding too, thank you so much.
Joe, thanks for paying our way.
Oh, it's the district.
Oh, the district.
Joe didn't do it.
Thank you.
Joe, do you want to mention
Joe,
the ribbon
thank
cutting?
You know what? Oh,
Thank you,
yes, yeah.
Maybe say something.
So, they mentioned the ribbon cutting, Friday, the Y ribbon cutting, 5:30,
5:30.
so, board members be there. Don has also been invited, since he was a big part of that process too, so he'll be there, for the school district too. I'm sure Marty was invited too. And so, yeah, we're looking forward to that, and, kinda like Chad was saying, a lot of punch list items, we're working through those punch list items, here at the last minute, but things look like everything will be okay for a Monday start, so looking forward to 5:30,
Friday.
Friday, and then, you can go downtown, 'cause isn't Friday the thing in Eldridge too?
Oh, is that the?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so you can come to ribbon cutting and then go downtown.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a big Friday in Eldridge.
Everyone party out by last Monday?
Yes. All right, any other correspondence?
Motion to adjourn.
All right,
Second?
all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, kids.
Hey,
Done.
Okay, now we are done.
Any of us can sign
Any of us can sign your papers.
We're done.